तो देने की भी राजी नहीं है ना। अब तो पेज ही मंगाने, कलर प्रिंट कर दिया बच्चों का, प्रिंट निकाल के आना पड़ेगा क्या। Morning, all of you. Can you hear me?
Good morning. Can you hear us? Am I audible? Good morning.
Yes, yes.
I think you need to unmute all of us. Otherwise, we can't go
Yeah, we
ahead with the
can hear you.
presentation.
I can unmute myself. I think it's Mo who
Okay,
cannot
it's
unmute.
more. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So first lecture किसका होगा सर? मैं
It will be Suprapta.
So you need to give us the rights to share the screen because I can't share.
Sure, sir. Screen sharing की Sir, now you can share a screen. Please check it.
Okay, let me check once. But still, I think one of us cannot unmute herself and open the video. I don't know if the problem is with the computer or with some permission.
So we have shared the rights of screen sharing also and to unmute
Hmm.
yourself.
Okay. Let's see.
So I'm going to start. So a very good morning to all of you. I, Dr. Priyanka Kriplani, on behalf of Guru Gobind Singh College of Pharmacy, welcome you all for the one-day national workshop on mastering medical writing, preparing for a successful career, which is held in collaboration with Amar Shaheed Baba Ajit Singh Jujar Singh Memorial College of Pharmacy, Bela, and Equia, which is a multinational based company. It is a provider of biopharmaceutical development, professional consulting, and commercial outsourcing services focused primarily on the phase 1 to 4 clinical trials and also associated with the laboratory and analytical services. Its expertise, it is very well reflected from the figures, that is 120 plus billion healthcare record processed annually, 61 plus petabytes volume of proprietary data, 1.2 billion unique non-identified patients, Equia's unparalleled data assets, 1 million plus data feeds accelerating timelines, 46% faster and clinical trial site identification, 500 plus students in 75 countries. Now, medical
Hello.
Hello.
I think we got.
Okay, so I thought it was my internet.
No.
writing, which is a theme of the program. It is also principles of clinical research in and clearly describe research results. The program. I would like to introduce our first speaker of the day, that is Suprapta Gupta, Engagement Management, Health Economics,
It's
and
Suprapta Ghosh. May I
Suprapta
correct you?
Ghosh.
It's
Okay,
Suprapta
okay.
Ghosh. There's no Gupta. Thanks.
Suprapta Ghosh, which is Engagement Manager, Health Economics and Outcome Research, India. He is leading and executing various collaborations and engagements across geographies and by effectively project and stakeholder management, seamless communication, and designing delivery optimization. Responsible for diversification of existing engagements and identification of unexplored business units where medical writing collaboration within Equia can be established, involved in strategic development for the business growth and expansion, and leads a team of expert medical writer for more of our derivatives, and has 15 plus years of experience in the academic and pharmaceutical sector. So I welcome you, sir.
Great. Thank you. Uh, shall we start on
Yes,
the?
yes,
Uh,
please.
okay, great. Thank you so much for a nice introduction, and let's start as we are a little late to start. Let's start with the presentation. So, hello everyone, whosoever is joining this stream, and welcome to this session on medical writing. Uh, this session will be divided into mainly four parts: an introduction, an insight on regulatory or clinical writing. Then we'll move on to scientific and publication writing, and we'll wrap up with what kind of medical writing market and careers we have at the moment. So, moving on to the introduction, and with that, let me come to why we are actually, we are looking into medical writing. Medical writing is writing various documents and deliverables pertaining to um, various phases of clinical trial and post-clinical trial studies. So there, I think the communication is the key to write any sort of document. And what are the 7 C's of effective communication? Uh, those are complete, clear, concise, concrete, correct and correct and
Yes, sir.
courteous and consideration. So these are the 7 C's of effective communication. I'm not getting into the details, but then I'll quickly give you what is each one of them clearly telling us. So whatever we are writing, we are communicating through our writing, it should be complete. We should make sure that there should not be any missing information. The writing should be clear. What we are trying to message through that writing, the message should be loud and clear. It should not mislead or misconstrue any other opinion. Yeah, it should be concise. It cannot be long. It should be very brief and succinct and concise and to the point, so that it is easy to understand. The message through writing should be concrete. It should be as I said, it should be concise. It should also be concrete, and it should be whatever we write, whatever we try to communicate should be backed by some sort of evidence. It is not that it is our data. It should be backed by some sort of evidence. And definitely, needless to say, the next C is correct. So if you back up with some sort of evidence, the writing should be correct. And last but not the least, I think we can go into consideration and courteous. Communication should be tailored to the audience. So if we are communicating, we should know who's the target audience for that kind of communication or that writing piece that we are writing. And it should not be disrespectful, or it should not be unprofessional. It should not be colloquial or any sort of casual form of writing. So these are the basic 7 C's of effective communication, and this will definitely help anyone, any medical writing professional, to be on the actual page. Let's get into the next. So this is the medical writing landscape, which means what I mean. We need to understand who are the audience, who is the medical writer, and what are the deliverables that a medical writing professional involves in. So medical writing, here the definition of medical writing is given: an activity of writing scientific and clinical documents dealing with medicine or healthcare by someone who is a specialized writer, specialized in terms of knowledge, in terms of effective communication, in terms of experience. And the medical writer who will write the document should be skilled. He or she is a skilled individual who distill and translate complex clinical and scientific data and he or she is responsible to process those data to develop documentation spanning entire pharmaceutical product life cycle. It can be phase 1, phase 2, post marketing, any phase for that matter. We need to, as I said in the last slide, we need to understand the target audience. Who are the target audience? For whom are we writing these sort of documents? So are they regulators? Are they regulatory agencies? Are they payers? They are the policymakers or healthcare professionals? Are they scientific fraternity that we are writing these documents? And mentioned below are some of the medical and scientific writing documents that are mostly predominant in these domain. We write clinical study protocol, we write clinical study report, technical reports, documentation for regulatory submission, various documentation for regulatory submission, conference proceedings, manuscripts, clinical trial disclosures, product dossiers, so on and so forth. There are many. I mean, to name a few, these are the few ones. Who can be a medical writer? Now, with I said with medical writers should be trained and skilled as per qualification and experience. So, who can be a medical writer? Uh, People coming from various life science background can definitely aspire to be a medical writer. He can be from various fields, and these are the few of the fields mentioned here who can definitely aspire to be a part of the medical writing domain. So, and to mention what are the types of medical writing, as I mentioned in my agenda slide. So these are the few types of medical writing. One is regulatory and clinical trial writing. One is scientific and publication writing, and definitely there's one medical marketing, kind of deliverables and medical marketing writing. Um to give you a short insight on each one of them, regulatory, with name suggests, you write for you write documents which are targeted for any regulatory body, any regulatory agency, or for any clinical trial or clinical study, for any phase, for any analytical phase, for any post marketing phase. So these kind of writings are called regulatory or clinical trial writing. Scientific and publication writing entails writing of scientific documents targeted for the scientific fraternity. So these documents are published in peer-reviewed journals, in conference proceedings, etc. So, for example, manuscripts, abstracts, posters, etc., white papers. So these are kind of scientific writing documents. And last but not the least, medical marketing writing. So these involves developing marketing materials, marketing for the molecule of interest, marketing for the various promotional material for healthcare professionals. So these kind of writings are falling under the medical marketing writing. This involves developing of marketing materials for ethical promotion of therapeutic products or a health technology. It can be a I think, I mean, you can say it can be a molecule, it can be a procedure, etc. Any health technology can be marketed ethically through these kind of documents, and people who write these kind of documents are called medical marketing writers. So few of the examples are product monograph. A package insert is one of them. Definitely, it's a scientific document for which aids in marketing. There are leave behind leaflets for various HCPs that are developed for a particular kind of drug. So there are many such documents. Few of them are named here. So as I end my first leg of introduction and first leg of presentation, which was the introduction, I move on to the second leg of my presentation, which is the regulatory and clinical trial writing. And as I said, these documents that are prepared or that are written are basically targeted towards various regulatory bodies, regulatory agencies. They are either written for phases of clinical trial, can be analytical studies, or any studies post marketing phases, any phase of clinical trial. These documents are developed. So moving on to the introduction, the role of regulatory writer is to produce regulatory documents, and I told you what regulatory documents are. Refers to documents that are submitted in some form to the health authorities. It is an interdisciplinary field wherein there's a conglomeration of science, there's a conglomeration of statistics, people from statistical biostatistics and statistical domain also aids in these kind of documents. And definitely people who has the art of writing, who knows the art of writing, can also be a part of this kind of writing. So these are what are the basic elements for these kind of writing. So it has to be factual, unbiased, clear, concise. Definitely, all the 7 C's of effective communication will be there. You have to be objective. You need to contextualize. You need to be simple, which I said in the 7 C's of communication. The communication has to be complete. It has to be reader centered. It has to know what audience it is going to, which health authority it is going to, who will read this document, and you have to balance the writing in terms of benefit risk, in terms of knowing what kind of claim you are writing for these molecule or procedure or whatever it is, and the judgment that you are basing on your documents on should be clear and loud. Please stop me whenever you think I'm going a little bit faster. I'm happy to stop and explain any point I'm going faster. So my next slide would tell you what are the key role of a regulatory writer. What does a regulatory writer do? So so regulatory, why does the document go for regulatory body? So finally the regulatory body approves the document and gives a marketing approval, right? So these are mainly targeted towards marketing approval, or some kind of approval that, yeah, you go ahead and this molecule can be, can be approved for so and so markets. So these kind of writing can be a regulatory medical writing, and definitely these are directed by some guidelines, and ICH guidelines is one of the guidelines. which directs this kind of writing. ICH is International Conference on Harmonization, ICH guidelines, and there will be a template for writing these kind of documents. Either the template is with the company who writes the document, or with the designee, like a contract research organization, which writes the document for a definite company. And as you know, drug development cycle can be in mostly broadly in three phases: preclinical, clinical, and post approval. So, and these are the phases. I'm not going into details what are the phases mean and what are done in each of the phases, but then in throughout the drug development cycle, and I'll show you where and what documents are written for each of the phases for drug development cycle. So, briefly, if you see the boxes, the white boxes will tell you what are the documents, and the blue boxes will tell you what are the phases of the drug development cycle where these documents are written. For example, if you go to phase 1 POC, proof of concept. Generally, phase 1 and phase 2A both are known as proof of concept, but then we can do a proof of concept for phase 1 as well. So phase 1 and or proof of concept, we develop clinical study protocol, we develop informed consent, and the, phase 2A, if you see, we develop clinical study report for phase 1. In phase 2, because we have the phase 1 data by then, and investigator brochure, definitely we write in phase 2. It's an update to the investigator brochure. It starts from phase 0 onwards in writing of investigator brochure, and it is updated in each of the phases. If you go to approval phase, you see RMPs, risk management plans, are being written. There will be updates to investigator brochure, so and so forth. So basically, you can see the each of the white boxes will tell you what are the main documents that are written in these phases. And on your left hand side, extreme left hand side, these phases are divided into preclinical, clinical, and post marketing also. So to give you a brief idea, what are the phases of the drug development life cycle it is. So clinical development plan. So in preclinical, we start from preclinical, and in preclinical we have a candidate molecule selection. We have to understand what kind of molecule it is, if we are developing a drug, if we are clinically developing a drug. And these are the studies, in vitro studies and in vivo studies, help us to develop these molecules into I mean develop idea about these molecules, which goes into the clinical trial phase. We have animals testing studies, various animal studies, also in vivo studies will be there. In preclinical animal testing, we have in vivo animal testing also. uh, so these will entail the clinical development plan, and after the results are out for these studies, we can try developing a clinical development plan, so that we can take the molecule, or we can write various documents in the clinical drug development life cycle, starting from the clinical phase 1. So what are there in the clinical development plan? Background pharmacology of the molecule. We write the scientific summary of the molecule, whatever knowledge and information we get from the preclinical phases, in vivo, in vitro studies, animal testing studies, etc. Then we go on to clinical studies planning. We also write the schedule of events and milestone. When do we plan to do or launch phase 1, and what is the proof of concept, what is the concept that we'll do a proof of concept. We develop costs and milestones. So these are all written in clinical development plan. So Again, the common document types for clinical trial phases, as we have already discussed, these are the common documents that are there in the phases of clinical trials: phase 1, phase 2, phase 2b, 3 can be also phase 3a, 3b, and 4 is post marketing or approval phase, 3b to 4. So generally, overall, for all phases or for all studies, we have a clinical trial protocol, and that is one of the main documents that a medical writer or regulatory or clinical medical writer prepares. And the definition is given here on your right hand side. This clinical trial document is a document that describes about a purpose of the study, background, rationale, objectives, design, methodology, population, measurements, statistical consideration, and organization of a study. So this definition is given in ICH guidelines for good clinical practices. So ICH GCP is International Conference on Harmonization Good Clinical Practice, which is also called ICH E6. uh, Here it is given, this definition is provided in this guidelines as this one, a document that describes about study background, rational purpose, objectives, design methodology, population, measurement, statistical consideration, and organization of a study. So just to give you a brief idea, these definitions are given here. What is an informed consent form? So as per ICH GCP, informed consent is a process by which subject voluntarily confirms his or her willingness to participate in a particular study after having been informed about all aspects of the study that are relevant to the subject's decision to participate. So this is a process through which voluntary participation is guaranteed by a volunteer or a subject in the study who voluntarily involves himself or herself in the study. Informed consent is documented by means of a written, signed, and dated informed consent form. And this, we spoke briefly about investigators brochure in the phases of drug development cycle. The investigator brochure, as per ICH GCP E6, is a compilation of clinical and non-clinical data of on the investigational products that is relevant to the study of the investigational products in human subjects. So this, I mean, this is a dynamic document. Protocol is a document which is written per phase, per study. Investigator brochure is one document which is written and updated throughout the drug development cycle, because as you move towards the end of the drug development cycle through the phases, you keep on having newer information which you keep on adding to the investigator's brochure. It is not a new document, it is always an investigator's brochure which is being updated from time to time as you move towards the end of the drug development cycle, even in post marketing and phase 4. In post marketing, it is called product monograph. Before approval of the molecule from the regulatory agencies, it is called investigator's brochure. Now, what is a clinical study report? This is also a very common and predominant document that a medical writer or a regulatory medical writer will write. Clinical study report is a comprehensive document with study related information, results, discussion, conclusion of the study. It includes clinical and statistical descriptions, presentation, and analysis. It's not analysis, it's analysis. Means there are various analysis throughout the report, which is integrated into a single report. And what is a clinical overview and clinical summary? So see, if you see the guidelines, now the ICH is no more an E6 guideline which quotes this. This is quoted by ICH M4E, which is another module of ICH, multidisciplinary module of ICH, which says that clinical overview CO or clinical summary CS is an overview and summary. It can be overview, it can be summary as per the document. There can be two kinds also, or there can be both. An overview and summary of all results from clinical trial included in the marketing authorization dossier. So we prepare a dossier wherein we include. So we have to understand one difference here from the clinical study report. Clinical study report is generally for the regulatory body. This is also for the regulatory body, but this is not in form of uh, all results or description or result discussion and conclusion. These are just information that has come out of all results from the clinical trials, supported by evidences in the uh, literature or evidences which is already present or already available in the literature. What is risk management plan? As per ICH E2E, uh, it says that risk management plan or RMP is a document which provides an overview of safety profile of the drug, risk associated with the drug, and management of risk. So management of risk, we have RMM, which is risk mitigation and management plan. RMMP is a subsection of RMP, which says how do you control, how do you manage, and how do you outperform the risks in a particular kind of safety situation. For example, if it is a serious adverse reaction or if it is a serious adverse event, and with definition of causality and various other factors, if we come to a conclusion what kind of safety event it is, how do you manage those risks, what is the algorithm for managing those kind of risks is mainly provided in the risk mitigation and management plan. And this is a part of risk management plan, as I already mentioned. Risk associated with the drug, we have some idea from the investigator's brochure that what these are the developing risks, or these are the developing side effects, or these are the developing adverse reactions from the drug in these clinical trials. So we take these information from investigator brochure, which is ongoing and dynamic document, and we mention these risks in the RMPs, that these can be the risks, but how to mitigate that risk is given in the RMMP, which is a part of RMP. So here I end my my discussion on regulatory and clinical medical writing, and let's move on to the third kind of writing, scientific and publication writing. And I have my colleague Smita. Smita will take you through this kind of writing. And yeah, Smita, over to you.
Uh, Thank you, Suprapta. We just wanted to know if we can have some cameras on. We can give you a break of 5 or 10 minutes after the session, or hear questions that you may have for Suprapta before we start on the session. Will that be okay? And I'm not sure if I'm audible and my video is visible.
Yeah, you are.
You're
Okay.
audible.
Okay. It'll be great if we can have some videos on and we see whom we are talking to.
And hi, this is Mo. And if possible, if people can ask us questions, so that we can make it more interactive. Otherwise, the content may feel a bit overwhelming. So please ask question wherever you might have doubt, or any question. Now, no question is stupid. So if you please ask questions, that will really be good.
Ma'am, actually, the students are not in this Zoom meeting. The students are on YouTube channel.
Okay, okay.
So if there will be any questions, we will communicate you through the mail or either something other way. But right now,
Okay,
it's-
all right.
Okay. So should we have like a because it's a continuous session, do you feel that we have like a 5 minutes break so that they can rejuvenate for the next session? How
Yes,
do you want to do that?
you can take 5 minutes break.
I mean,
That's
we
not.
are fine, but because it can get too overwhelming to go
Yes, yes,
from
yes, ma'am, I
clinical
can understand.
writing to
Yes,
publication
yes, ma'am.
writing. So we can come back at it's 10:15 now. So if we come back at 10:25 and start by 10:30, would that be fine?
Yes, yes, ma'am, it will be fine. There's no issue with that.
Yeah, and in the meantime, if you just want to have a general, okay, you said that's not possible. Okay, that's fine. So we'll.
Yes, ma'am, I want to thank sir. So,
And so
actually,
Dr.
ma'am, this
Priyanka,
topic is very new to us about the medical writing. We have heard about that. Students, matlab, I don't think so that even 10% of students know about this thing. They
yeah.
only know about that after pharmacy, they are to join the company, they are to join different departments like QC, QA, production, or you can say pharmacovigilance. That's their limit. They don't know about anything about medical writing. That's why we were very keen to heard about this, that what it is actually. So
Yeah, it's
it's
a
very
pleasure, Dr. Priyanka, for us also to
yes.
do that. And we can, we can think about expanding it if there is a need, because today is just an overview. So we thought we'll give a snapshot of different type of writing. What does it mean? What do we do? We have a little bit discussion on what do you mean by a career in medical writing, and how can you prepare yourself. So I'll talk about that later. But I was just thinking that while we take the break, if it is possible, if the students send you some questions, and then we can have a discussion on that also, so they can use
Yeah,
that
ma'am.
time to do that. Yeah, so that will be good also.
I'll ask the
Yeah.
students, they can
If,
write their
yeah,
questions
if
on
they
the.
are, on an email to you, I mean, and you can probably read it out to us, and we'll try to
Yes,
answer it
ma'am. Sure, ma'am.
if
Sure,
possible. Yeah.
sure.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. We'll just join back shortly. Yeah.
Ji, sure, ma'am.
Smita, you're sharing, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yes, I'm sure.
Ma'am, shall I start?
Yeah, definitely.
So I welcome again all of you to the conference. And I would like to introduce our second speaker of the day, that is Smita Sridharan. She is Engagement Manager, Health Economics and Outcome Research. And she leads project management covering scientific communication with HUR and RWS offerings and manages client engagements and delivery execution. supports various scientific writing deliverables in terms of leading projects and senior oversight, manages a team of medical writers, and has about 13 years of experience in the academic and pharmaceutical sector. I welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. It's sad that it's not an interactive session, but I'll try to be as clear as I can, and we will probably have your questions by the end of the talk, and I can try to clear it off. So first, I'd like to start by telling you what is publication writing. Why do we do publication writing as academicians, as researchers, or as pharma companies? Whenever you have done any investigation or any research on a particular product or any kind of research, maybe clinical or preclinical, the aim of the final aim is to kind of disseminate the knowledge that you've got to the research community, to the scientific community at large, and to inform them about your findings, whether positive or negative. So that's the main purpose of scientific writing or a publication writing. So why do we write, and what is the impact of writing a publication? Is it allows you as a researcher to kind of disseminate your work, and it allows other researchers to review, scrutinize, and validate your findings. It's sometimes as a researcher, it's kind of you kind of look inward and can't find the faults in the research that you do. So once that is done, when it's being scrutinized by other reviewers, they kind of identify the pitfalls or kind of help you to validate those findings to ensure that whatever is being presented to the community at large is valid, is reliable and accurate, and it's also reproducible. So that's one of the main reasons why we publish the articles. It also enables the researchers to build upon previous knowledge. So once something is published, there is no repetition of work that happens. So the next researcher who's doing doesn't need to replicate what another researcher has done, can kind of start off from where somebody has left. Right, and that's how science grows, and that's why publication helps, because there is a documented literature about the work that has already been done, and then you kind of work from there. So it enables researchers to build on and extend on findings, potentially leading to new discoveries and definitely providing new scientific insights. And it's also important in advancing knowledge and allows researchers to disseminate their findings to a wider audience, as I already mentioned to you. So now, just to give you a view of how this has expanded over the years, initially it was more restricted. I mean, in the time where communication was not that very as it is today, you can see that the number of papers have kind of exponentially increased to about 7 million papers being produced per year. And I guess this number is far more than, this is statistics for 2014, so we are 10 years back. So this might be around 10 million papers now. So there are a lot of research happening, and there's a lot of people publishing their work. But since there is this much of work happening around the globe, it also becomes very important to have a very defined process on how this work is being published. And this is with whenever a paper is submitted to a journal, it is kind of scrutinized by the reviewers or by the scientific communities to ensure that the work is good. And with that, they see a lot of rejection rates as well, to ensure that you go back to your work, look at the shortcomings of or the limitations of your work, and come and republish it again. So that's the impact that it creates to the scientific community. Now, I'll just walk you through the processes of scientific development. This is mostly a corporate way of publishing. It's not very different in the academic world, but there are certain processes that needs to be followed for each process of writing a manuscript. So first of all is the plan that you make once there is a result, Suprapta talked to you about about clinical study report. Once a study is completed and a clinical study report is made, here basically I'm going to talk about clinical studies, not clinical studies. So I'll restrict to whatever I'm saying to clinical studies. So once a clinical study is conducted and a clinical study report is there, that is a starting material to write a manuscript. Not everything that is there in the clinical study report is kind of submitted as a publication. It needs to be concise. Only the information that kind of gives you the message that you want to convey to the audience is what is taken from the clinical study report. And maybe the study is very extensive and you cannot put in the results in one paper, so it sometimes is divided into many different papers, so that the information that you're passing on is more clearer and concise. So once the study report is ready, that's your starting material, and then you need to identify where you want to publish your paper, so that you know that you know your particular audience. And in the while Suprapta was mentioning about communication, it's very important to know your audience. So you should adapt to write to that particular audience. So it's important to identify the journal that you want to publish. You should have a study material. You should kind of have an idea of what are the figures and tables that you want to put. And that is kind of defined in an outline. So before you really start drafting something, you need to have an outline on what are the things that you want to put in a manuscript. What is the message that you want to convey? That is the core of planning. Once the planning happens, it's the next phase is mostly a manuscript metadata. That's mostly to have, this is more a process oriented thing, that a metadata will have a title page. You need to know your authors. And the metadata it will have an abstract, sometimes a lay summary. You need to know who are the contributors, what's the funding, disclosure, data availability, and acknowledgements. These are, although sounds more like a process driven, these are very important important part of a manuscript from an ethical perspective as well. Like when you talk about author list, there are very strict guidelines on who can be an author and who cannot be an author. So this is something that is very, very closely monitored. Anybody and everybody cannot be an author. Only a person who has contributed extensively to the design of the work, to the conduction, and who has been a part of the writing can be an author. So there are specific guidelines that are there. And as a medical writer, you need to be aware of who and who cannot be an author. And all people who have contributed who cannot be an author would be acknowledged. Like a medical writer who is not a part of the study, who is not a part of the design of the study or the analysis, is acknowledged because they are contributing to the writing of the manuscript. But whatever content is written is still the responsibility of the authors and not of a medical writer. So people who kind of support in the process are acknowledged, and who don't meet the criteria of being an author are acknowledged. Funding is necessary. Disclosures, if the authors have any conflicting interests, those are details that needs to be there for a reader, so that they know that whatever opinion is being presented in your paper is an unbiased kind of opinion. Now coming to the main part of writing, which is the content that is there in the manuscript. We'll go in detail regarding this in the subsequent slides, so I would not expand it here. Once a manuscript is written, whether it is in a corporate environment or in an academic environment, it is very important for it to be reviewed by your peers, reviewed by your seniors, to ensure that the message that you're kind of putting in is correct. It is presented in the right way. So there are multiple review cycles, and data that you've put in is checked by a quality control person or a senior reviewer, so that to ensure whatever is put in, because it's going to be in a public domain, because people rely on the data that you put in for their further investigation. You need to ensure that every single word that is written or every single data point that is put in your paper is exact. So there are multiple process of quality control that happens to ensure that the data or the content that is there in the manuscript is very clear. And then comes the process of journal submission, which sometimes is a very, very extensive process. Even after multiple quality control checks that happens before it's submitted to the journal, there are reviewers or key opinion leaders in the field who might have concerns about the work that you have done, and can come back to you with questions, and you might have to go back to the bench, go back to your labs to redo some of the analysis to ensure that whatever criteria is required for that particular results to come out is kind of satisfied. So these are the different developmental processes of a manuscript that needs to be followed, whether it's in academic world or in a corporate world. And at the end of it, the prize that you get is a publication. Okay. So next, I told you about manuscripts. There are different types of manuscripts that can be written. The major one is the original article. That means that any research that you've done, that you publish, present your results, they are called as original articles. Then the next major thing is reviews. So reviews can be a narrative review, mini review. So reviews are basically what they do is to kind of they're mostly written by experts in the field. So if we are talking about a space called say we're talking about breast cancer, so if there's so much of work being done in breast cancer, and as a newcomer to the field, sometimes I would not be able to scan through the entire literature to kind of understand what is the treatment landscape of breast cancer. So to help aid these kind of understanding, there is this type of article called narrative reviews, where a key opinion leader in the field kind of summarizes all the data in that has been published to tell them what is the current scenario, and gives his opinion on the take. So it is still an assimilated from the previous knowledge and kind of summarized in a way that people don't have to go back to a lot of literature to read that. So narrative reviews and mini reviews, they help aid researchers or the scientific community to have a more overview of that particular field. Then there are opinions and debates or consensus. This is another kind of paper where if there is a work that is done and there can be controversies, there can be different schools of thought about a particular treatment. So this is also generally written by experts in the field, where they provide their opinion or their stand on that particular treatment land. It could be a treatment landscape, it could be something about the drug, it could be about the safety, it could be about their experience. If a doctor is kind of writing, it could be his perspective on how that drug is suiting this particular geography. So it could be different. They are just opinions about that, and it's generally written by experts. There could be short communication, something that you just, it does not fit the original article, or there has a lot been done, but it's still worthy to be communicated to the audience. So it comes in the form of a short communication, where it's not an extensive document, but maybe around 1,000 to 1,500 words, where you just want to inform. Or it could be about a sub-analysis of a study that has already been published, but there is a subgroup analysis that's interesting to be presented. So you've presented the data of 60 to 80 years old, but then when you kind of looked at it, you thought that there is more information, that between the age group of 70 to 80, the results look more convincing, and that was not really explored in your previous thing. So then you make a short communication of where you kind of provide your opinion about that particular age group. Then you have case reports. reports where it could be just about one particular case. This mostly happens in rare diseases where you don't have a big study population. You kind of want to report the safety or efficacy of a particular drug on this particular person. So you write a case report on that. Then letters to editors are similar to short communication, where you kind of want to tell the audience, not want to extensively talk about the results. It might not have figures and tables, but you just want to communicate your new findings. So these are the different kind of articles. Today we'll be mostly focusing on original articles, where it is it has a very precise way of writing it. So we'll mainly focus on the original articles today. So what are the components? In my first slide, I did show you about what are the different things that are a part of a manuscript. So it's called IMRAD. The part of manuscript, it should have an introduction. It should have methods, results, and discussion. So what is it that you would put in the introduction? So it tells you why did you actually do the study, what was the need of doing the study. It gives you a background of the area. It gives you a background why there is a need for this kind of research. It tries to introduce you to the research question. It provides a rationale for why the study was conducted, and also tells you about the hypothesis of the study, and sometimes would probably tell you about what insight this work will give to the scientific community at large. So these are the points that needs to be taken care of in your introduction. Then coming to the methods, which is the crux of the paper, which actually tells you how you have conducted your study. It tells you about your study design. It tells you about the approach that you have taken, how many patients have participated in the survey, who are the patients, what were the criteria for the patients to be included, is there a criteria for certain patients to be excluded, what is the interventional drug, who are you comparing, are there different cohorts, are you comparing somebody who's been given the drug with somebody who's not been given the drug, and what is the outcome that you're looking at. So these are the things that will be there in the methods, and how you have analyzed. So it not only tells you about how you've done your study, it also tells you about how you have analyzed your study, so that the scientific audience also knows how the comparison has happened. So statistical analysis is also a very important part of your method section. Now coming to the results of what you got from your study, what is the outcome of your study. So everything that you have put in your introduction that you've mentioned will be the outcomes of your study needs to be reported in your results section. So it tells you what you actually found from the study, and anything that you present in your results needs to be factual, needs to be unbiased. You need to be completely transparent. You cannot cherry pick. You cannot say that, okay, this result, you had an hypothesis in mind when you started your study. So you cannot cherry pick and say that, okay, this result sounds interesting, so let me present only that. So that's not the way that you would present your results. Whether the results is favorable for your hypothesis or unfavorable for your hypothesis, you need to present the results and say that this is what I observe. So you cannot hide anything. And results are also presented. You have figures and tables in your results to aid in the easy understanding of the data. Sometimes reading a lot of text can be monotonous. So, and there are different people who kind of assimilate things in different ways. So one of the ways to make people understand a lot of data is to kind of put it in a figure format or in a table format where people can kind of understand it better. So that's why results sections generally have tables and figures to help aid in the understanding of the results that you have presented. Then coming to the last and very important section of your manuscript, which is also sometimes the section that is a little difficult to write, because what you're saying is you found something and you want to kind of compare it with what is presently known about that in the published literature. You're comparing the data that you've received to the already published knowledge, right? So say you've got a favorable result for a particular drug, but when it was conducted, you kind of compare it with the previous studies, or a different study has been done in a different population. You want to compare and see whether it is similar to those studies or dissimilar to those studies. So whether it's similar or dissimilar, you definitely need to present and need to give, and if it is dissimilar, you probably need to give a kind of your take on why you think that the data is not similar to what was previously found. There could be many reasons for why data are not similar, because it could be a different study population. It could be that the inclusion criteria for the study was different. So you would need to really dig through to understand the data and then compare it with the already existing data in literature. And this is also a space where you can kind of tell the readers what you think were the limitation of the study. So there is no study design that is perfect. There is always there will always be things that you couldn't do in a study. So you would need to present those limitations in the study. Maybe you thought that you need to have a sample. I mean, the ideal sample size is to have a very big study population so that you can generalize the results that you get. But you might be limited there. So you would present that information saying that, okay, this is not a very big study population, but however, you've accounted for it in a certain way. So you also present the limitation of your study. So when you write a manuscript, it's not only the positives, you also write the limitations of the study as well. So this is the overview of writing a manuscript. I can go through in further in a detail about each of these sections. So now, how do we write a very strong introduction? So as I said, what is very basically important is to give a good background, not a very elaborate and extensive background, because that might derail the reader. They can go and read a review for that. But so what you need to present is a background information that is relevant for your study rationale, that leads you to a study rationale. So what is the issue, what is known, a very brief summary of the published research, and also what is the unaddressed question. So unaddressed question and unmet need in the field leads you to the study rationale, leads you to why you've done the study. So you are taking the reader, providing the basic information of the thing, of the field that you're researching, and telling them what is the lacunae in that particular area, which will then lead you to your study question. So it's manuscript writing is more like a storytelling. You kind of can take the reader how you want to take them, right? So you first tell them what is the lacunae, and then tell them why you've done the study. What is the study rationale? Why is it important to find this solution? What is the novelty of this study? And then you give the aim of the study. So first you give the background, establish that there's an unmet need, then tell them why you're doing the study, and then give them the aim of the study. So this should be the crux of your introduction, and should not be more than 3 or 4 paragraphs when you write. So ideally a article is about 3,000 to 4,000 words. So this will be around 700 words to say, if I need to be very, very technical about this. Now, what are the key points that you need to remember? Like I said, it's unnecessary to give too much general information. People can go and read a review for it. Too many details about previously conducted studies, not necessary. You just give the information that is required. Too many references. You kind of references are a very important part of any manuscript writing, because you need to, any single thing that you write in your manuscript needs to be cited, needs to be referred, especially in the introduction part is something that you're taking from published literature. So you need to give credit to the person who's done that work. So you need to cite that particular reference from where, and you need to cite the original reference and not the review for that particular instance. And overlapping information, sometimes introduction and discussion can be things that you put in the introduction need not be revisited in the discussion. You need to separate out what you need to put in the introduction and discussion. Then you don't need to draw inference from and the conclusion of a previous study. That's something that you need to do in the discussion. So you need to have a clear idea of what needs to go into the introduction and what needs to go into the discussion. What it needs to be? It needs to be focused and brief. You avoid truism. I mean, you don't say the obvious, like you say breast cancer is a well-known problem. That's something that everybody knows. So something that everybody knows need not be reiterated again. Avoid too much of history. Move from being more general. Like I said, don't talk about the entire thing. Be specific to the question that you want to address in your manuscript. Be selective. Because we are at times where there's already so much done in every field. So ensure that you put in what is relevant to the story that you want to present. Okay. Now, moving on to the materials and methods. As I said, this is a crux of the paper, and this is where all the researchers would kind of want to know what is done, how it is done, so that in case they want to kind of repeat it or kind of look at the study population, all the information is kind of provided here. So first of all, what you present is the setting of the study, where the study has been conducted, what is the period, how it has been conducted. Comes the study design, where you say whether it's an interventional study, it is a non-interventional study, is it a randomized clinical trial, is it a controlled one, is it a blinded one. So you provide all information about your study design, the study time period, what are the interventions. Then you kind of talk about the participants or the study population, where you talk about the human subjects, what is the study population. If you're talking about patients with breast cancer who have metastasized, you have specific criteria. So whatever is a specific study population that you have used in your study, that needs to be presented. For any clinical study you have done, it needs to be approved by the review committee, so that they have reviewed your protocol and given you a stamp that whatever study you're conducting is ethical. So you need to present that ethical approval number in your paper, so that people can go back to the protocol and check if needed, and also to ensure that however you've conducted the study, it is in a ethical way, and it is approved by the regulatory bodies of that particular region where the study is conducted. Then you talk about what are the outcomes and endpoints that you're looking at, and also the statistical plan. So this should summarize your methods section, and it's generally written in sections so that it's easy for a reader. If it's not written like a monotonous dialogue, it's called out as study settings and study population, so that if I as a reader just want to look at study population, I can easily navigate it in the method section. Okay, now coming to similarly what needs to be considered, what are the common errors that people do, what are the guiding principles. Let's start with the positive first. It needs to be very clear. There should be clarity. There should be sufficient detailing. Sometimes the methods could be very extensive. So at that point of time, you can make use of supplementary information so along with a paper, there is a space called a supplementary data. So any information that you think would be necessary to make your paper stronger and cannot be put in the framework of the paper can be put in your supplementary section. So you only do the sufficient detailing in your main body of the manuscript. Whatever is additional but still important can be put in your supplementary material that is provided with the manuscript. Only include information available at the time of plan or protocol. Report approvals, like I said, reporting of approvals is very key, and it is a checklist. It is one of the checklists that needs to be followed for publishing. So what are the common errors? Method section, so you cannot put something in the method section and not have it in the results. So only the methods that, or only the outcomes that have been that will be presented in the results can be presented in the methods. There should be a complete, there should not be any incomplete description, and people should be able to replicate your methods once they read the methods section. Yeah, so that's about the materials and methods section. Now moving on to what needs to be considered when you're writing a results section. So what do? Is you kind of summarize on what is, so like I said, it's usually done on a study population. So the main thing that you start off with writing in the baseline is you summarize the collected data. You kind of tell them where you started the study, what is the baseline of all the patients when the study was started, where they uniform. If you're using two different, if you're comparing between the two cohorts, you kind of, or two study population, you kind of say, are they similar? Are they different? What were their age, height, demographic, location, social status? Depending on what is important for your study, you kind of give a view of the baseline, and then you kind of report your outcomes of the study. Whatever study outcomes that has been defined, you kind of put that in the result section in a very defined way, and supplemented by the table or a figure to help a reader understand the results that you present in a more clearer fashion. Like I said, what should you include? Recruitment, characteristics of the sample, data of analysis. That is your core message that you want to present. And there's always confusion between the results and the discussion section. Results are the section where you present the factual data of your study. There is no inference. You're not inferring anything from the results. You're just saying that this is the study that I have done, and this is the results I have obtained. You're not going to compare it. You're not going to comment on the results. You're just going to tell the fact about the data in the results section. Discussion section is more an extrapolation of your results. So as a writer, you need to be very clear in your mind to say that, okay, this is the results, and I don't kind of interpret the results in my results section. I have another section called the discussion where I can interpret the data, but what I need to do in the results is to present it. Whatever is the fact, I just present that. Whatever is my opinion or the general opinion of the study team about the results is presented in the discussion. That's something that a writer needs to keep in mind. So when you present the data, there's a certain way of how you present the data, especially in a clinical study. Like I said, you have the baseline characteristics or the general characteristics of the population that you started the study with, that you present first, then you present the outcomes. And when you design your study, there are certain there are different outcomes that you kind of set for your study. It's called, what is the primary outcome that I want to see? What are the secondary outcomes? And what are exploratory outcomes? Are something that you have kind of not thought about before you started the study, but as a result of seeing what outcomes you've got, you probably explore these outcomes in another way. You kind of analyze it in a different way to see what you see. So those are exploratory outcomes, but this is the order of presentation. You first present your primary data, secondary data, and exploratory data. And it's not necessary all the time for every study to have all these three. You could just have the primary outcome of a study. It need not have all the three outcomes. But in case a study has all three outcomes, the presentation order is primary, secondary, and then exploratory. Then it's also important to present the data in a very consistent manner. Say I have a data of height, and in one place I say height is 5.66, and when I say the height for the height of all men in the population was 5.66, and the height of all women were 5.5. So I need to be consistent with the points. If I say 5.66 there, I need to be saying 5.50. So it's more about consistency of how you're writing, so that the reader reads it in a similar fashion. It needs to be consistent. And whenever you say something is significant, in scientific terms, when you say something is significant, you need to give a p-value for that. So those are the things that needs to be very, very thought through when you write. You cannot just write that result is significant and not give a p-value. So if a result is significant, then you have to give a p-value. So when you use terminologies, you need to ensure that that terminology is a valid one and that is supported by the data that you present. And also there are different, for some, you when you're presenting the hazard ratios, probably these jargons can be too much for you. But what I mean to say is that whenever you have a particular measure, you need to have a specific unit that you kind of present. You cannot really not have this and present the data. You should have a specific unit. If you have a hazard ratio, you need to have a confidence interval. If you have mean, you also need to have the standard deviation that needs to be presented. If you say significance, you need to present the p-value. So, and there are also ways in which how you present, which are more technical, maybe not for this particular audience now. But what I mean is that any detail that you mention needs to be factual, needs to have the right unit and the corresponding statistical analysis results for that. If you're kind of looking at the efficacy, you also need to talk about safety concerns. You cannot just present efficacy results and not talk about safety. There should be an equal balance. There should be a fair balance in your results. You should talk about what are the safety what are the adverse events associated with the disease, whether you found any adverse events, if you didn't find any adverse events, if there were adverse events, what proportion of patients had those adverse events, are these relevant? It's inevitable sometimes not to have any adverse events for the drug. It is a chemical compound that we are going to use, or whether chemical or not, there could be side effects that is seen. So it is very important for a scientific community to know what are the adverse events that we should expect when this drug or when this product is given to a patient, and in how many in what percentage or proportion of the patients do you see this kind of thing. So in some cases, when you're talking about a chemotherapy treatment, nausea is one of the common symptoms, but it's important for the physicians or for the clinicians to know how many percent of patients. So patients and physicians need to be informed about the side effects that needs to be seen. So it's very important to talk about safety or adverse events of a particular study. And then if there is any additional analysis done, that is the results that's presented in the end. So this is the framework of your results. Now, what are the common errors? This is more from a writing perspective, since we are talking about medical writing as a profession. What a medical writer needs to always remember is that when you're writing, the study has always been conducted, right? You're writing writing for a study that has already been done. So it's always in the past. You should never write the results in the present or in the future tense. It should always be written in the past tense. Like I said, when you use terms like significance, correlated, you should always have supporting data for it. And in the results, you should probably avoid using using words like strikingly, remarkably. These are not these are not scientific ways of communication. You should be backed by literature. You should be backed by numbers and facts, and should be very uh, you should be very thoughtful when you're using these kind of terminologies. You cannot over exaggerate your results. You should use very conservative language when you're writing a scientific document. So avoid these kind of interpretations that these results were remarkable or striking or things like that. And it's all then these are about numbers. You can sometimes talk about relative numbers, absolute numbers. You need to know what are the numbers that you are putting in. Like I said, don't overplay your results. Report results of all outcomes. You cannot cherry pick your results. You need to be very, very fair about all the results that you present, and the details that you are put in. So avoid repetition in any sections. Things that you have put in the introduction need not be there in the methods, things that you've put in the methods, because if you already explained the statistical analysis, you don't need to redo that in your method section. People can go back there and read. So, and you also have limited words, so you should be mindful of not repeating. And also, as a reader, I don't want to read the same thing again. So be mindful of not repeating things in different sections. Yeah. So that's about our results section. Now, as I told you, an important part of the results section is also your tables and graphs and figures. So it helps to kind of visualize the data in a more clear fashion. And it gives a quick, easy and quick accessibility for your results. Instead of elaborately reading it, it gives very very easy access and more clear view of the results. So if I am having 10 different baseline characteristics that or patient characteristics that I have looked at, and I kind of write it in sentences and write it for the two different population, it's very difficult in a running text to understand the difference. But if I say that, okay, I'm comparing male versus female, and I say these are the characteristics of male, these are the characteristics of female, comparison becomes easier. Looking at data becomes easier. So that's why a table is a more appropriate thing to do it. Or I use a graph if I want to talk about differences, if I want to say the trend, if I want to say that, okay, this is how, if I want to see how it has been over time, right? So it's better to give a graphical representation of it. So as a writer, I can kind of give these kind of these kind of view to the data. So you need to make use of your tables and graphs to make the reader understand your data in a much clear and easy fashion. Yeah. So to condense large amount of data, to organize and display data with more clarity, to compare values or groups, to make information easy to find and understand. I don't need to dig through these 500, 600 words to see what data I want. If it's in a table, it's easier to pinpoint that. And to facilitate easy calculations. Like the idea of a graphical representation is to enrich the understanding, improve interpretation. It's easier to see the trend in a graphical format than in a number format. If I say 10, 15, 20, or say 10, 12.5, and so if there's a dip and increase, it's easier to see it in a graphical representation than in a table format. So I need to choose what is the data that I need to present in a table, what best can fit a graph, and what kind of graph. So these are things as a reader or as a writer that I need to be very cognizant about. I need to think as a reader when I am writing. Yeah. So that's about tables and graphs. Now, moving on to the discussion. Like I said, there's a very clear distinction between the results and the discussion. So it becomes very it's a common mistake that people tend to take the results into the discussion. So you need to ensure that it's not a repetition of your results. You're wanting to take the main message that you want to convey from the results that you've got, and kind of interpret it with the existing literature. So what is your major finding? You still have to tell your major finding, and then say what is the significance, why is your finding important, how does it compare or relate to the current existing knowledge of work, and if it is similar, you say that yes, it is similar. If it is dissimilar, you provide a possible explanation. It may or may not be true, but you try to rationalize it, or try to give an explanation of possibly why you've not got the results that others have got. That is very important to give your scientific opinion. So as a medical writer, you might not have that much of insights on why this particular results is dissimilar. So that's when you need to work together with your study team to understand why a certain result is similar and why a certain result is dissimilar. So always, as a medical writer, you cannot work in silos. You need to work together with the study team, because you're not, as a writer, you're not there from the beginning of the study. You're a person that has been included in the study mostly towards the end. So you would not have a perfect understanding of the area, and so you would need to dig from the expertise of the study team to kind of bring this together. The job of the medical writer is to convey what is there in the mind of the study team or the authors in a way that the reader understands, right? So you can do research, but then you need to speak the language that the author wants to present the results in. Yeah. So this is a part where you need to work together very closely with the study team. And then you also tell the critical relevance of your finding. Like I said, mention the study limitation. That should be one of the very important sections of your discussion, where you tell your audience that, okay, yes, these are my results, these are significant. However, when you kind of look at these data, you need to be informed that these were some of the limitations that existed, and how you accounted for those limitations as well. So this should be the crux of a very, very good discussion. As I said, as a medical writer, this is the most challenging part, because this is kind of an interpretation of your results, and you need to work together with the study team to get this. So ensure objective methods, data, and interpretation is aligned with the main research question. So all the way, as I said, it is a story. You cannot start telling that this is what I wanted to study, and then report something else completely, and then discuss something else. It should follow a single thread. Whatever you kind of introduced in your introduction needs to be related to your study question, and based on your study question, you kind of identify your methods and outcomes, and based on the outcomes you present, you kind of give the discussion. So there should be one single story that you're saying. You cannot have multiple plots and multiple deviations, and the ones that you've not introduced in the introduction part. So that's about a good discussion. Now, what are the common pitfalls and what are the corrective actions? Providing results in great detail. So as I said, you will not repeat your results. A gist of the results is enough. You kind of put together, you concise the whole thing. As I said, you start off your discussion by telling what are the major findings of this study. So you kind of concise it and bring it together into one single paragraph. Discussion observation not reported in the results section. So you cannot talk about a result that you've seen in your study report but not presented in your results. So only the results that you've presented, you will discuss about those results. You cannot bring in new results into the discussion section. Avoid discussion on unexpected results. So be honest of whatever is the results. Don't try to kind of sugarcoat your findings, yeah, so that you kind of stimulate the other person. You don't present results that are not there, or you don't kind of hypothesize things that you don't see. Same or similar information is provided in the introduction and discussion. Avoid that. Using discussion section to provide historical details, no, it's not relevant. You don't reintroduce something in the discussion. You've already done it in the introduction, so don't redo that in the discussion. Not listing study limitations. As I said, this is mandatory, so you cannot say that I don't have any study limitation. No study is perfect, so you should ensure that you you're very sure to understand what are the limitations of your study. Conclusion not supported by data. Any conclusion that you derive from this should be supported by data. You don't overinflate the importance or the generalizability of data. Avoid drawing conclusions that are not backed by data. Speculating too much or too little, right? So there is a certain speculation, there is a certain interpretation or extrapolation of data in the discussion, but it should be a fair balance. You cannot overtell things or undertell things. Have an optimal balance. Discussion section should be detected by should be used for predicting, to show the results and the impact that it can have in the clinician's practice, or your opinion about it, but do not overinflate. Like I said, if there is an adverse event, do tell them that there is an adverse event. But then you can say, like I said, nausea is a common thing that you find. So you can say that, yes, we do see side effects, but these side effects are common in other kind of treatment landscape as well. So you're not actually hiding things from them, but you're saying that, yes, this is a limitation, this is a side effect that we see, but these are the most common side effects that you cannot avoid. So there will be pros and cons of a treatment, and that is something that you need to present as well. Yeah, so that's about what a discussion should entail. What are the pitfalls and what are the corrective measures that you can take. So I think I'm more or less done with introducing you to the scientific writing thing. One part of it that I didn't kind of tell you about is, as a part of the manuscript writing, you kind of have an abstract that you write with any manuscript that is there, which is about 300 to 500 words, which kind of summarizes all your findings, so that the reader, you have that in the beginning of the paper, so that the reader decides if they need to read it or not. So that's a very concise thing, which will have all these sections as well, but in a very concise manner. Yeah, so that's about an overview of the publication writing. Over to you. Thank you very much for your patience.
Thank you very much, ma'am. I think every section was explained so gracefully and in very simple terms.
Thank you.
And it will be definitely beneficial for the students who are just new to the research section. Like we have B.Pharm students also and masters also students. So I think they will gain much. Ma'am, actually, you were asking about the questions from the student side. So
Yeah.
there are some questions. Actually, they want to know about what are the career prospects in this.
So that will be the next session. So Mo
Okay.
will kind of take us through that. So that will be the next session.
And main challenges for medical writing professionals in today's era.
Yeah,
We'll get there. So
we
about
get
that,
there.
we will get there.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
In the next session.
Sure. Yeah.
And ma'am, they were also asking about, actually, they know, like, if they were asking about that, what is the difference between this profession and one that is emerging, that is pharmacovigilance?
So I guess it's more about career. So we'll
They are more
we'll
concerned about their careers, actually.
very relevant.
Understandably, it's very relevant. So yeah, maybe we can, we can address those now.
Okay, okay, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Smita, if you can continue to share your screen
Yes, I'll
and
do that.
do it for me. I'm sorry, I'm doing it from my phone because somehow my system is playing up.
Absolutely fine, Mo. I can do that.
Okay, sure. So, I mean, next up, I know that we had talked about what is medical writing, what encompasses in medical writing, what are the different forms of medical writing, and then we went in depth into clinical and regulatory medical writing, and followed by scientific communications or scientific medical writing. But then the most important question is that why would students, especially the pharmacy students, pursue a career in medical writing? What is in it for them? How would they prepare? So for that, I just have a couple of slides to take you all through on the career prospect of medical writing. Honestly, when the students are asking these questions and they are not aware of what is medical writing, and that's very, very common. When we did our studies, I mean, I completed it quite a few years ago. So even then, I think we did not know, and many students today also do not know about it. So that's the next topic that we would like to go through, is about the career in medical writing. So can we go ahead, Dr. Priyanka, or do you want a break
Yes,
for a
ma'am.
couple of?
We can.
Yeah, sure. Right. All right. Sorry.
Ma'am, can I introduce you?
Oh, sure. Please go ahead.
Okay, ma'am. Now I welcome our third speaker of the day, that is Mao Chatterjee. She is Principal, Head Economics and Outcome Research. She leads and supports a team of nearly 100 experienced writers focusing on medical and scientific writing for real-world studies. She supports late phase and observational studies across different geographies and therapy areas, including oncology, neurology, autoimmune disorder, and so on, and provide support in peer-reviewed publications and submissions to various regulatory and reimbursement authorities. She has about 18 years of experience in scientific communication and medical writing, pharmaceutical consulting, and HER studies. So I welcome you, ma'am. I request you, ma'am, to please take over.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Priyanka. Smita, if you can move to the next slide. Thank you, Smita. Okay, so why do we want to even consider medical writing as a career? So this is the prospect of medical writing that we see today. As you know, that we are expanding our research, clinical research, our healthcare research. It's very, very important that those research are disseminated to the people who are interested in finding out what is happening in the area. That includes different stakeholders, starting from the clinicians to the regulatory authorities, reimbursement authorities, nurses, the pharma companies, the people who are involved in analyzing the pharma company markets, as well as, and most importantly, the patients, because these healthcare research are for the patients. So the patients also have the right to know what they are having, and can also voice out their opinion about what are the problems they are facing with the currently available therapies and technologies that are available to them for their diseases. Right? This would again enable the researchers of tomorrow to look for newer avenues to help the patients so that they can benefit from the new therapies that can be brought into the market, right? And this can only happen if there is a steady flow of information between the researchers who are conducting the research to the entire fraternity of healthcare stakeholders and scientific researchers or academic researchers, right? So that is why it is very important to disseminate that. And that dissemination is done with the help of medical writers. It's a huge market. It's about $3.7 billion market as of now, and which is growing rapidly at the CAGR of 12.1%, right? So you can see that from 2021 to 2026, it's nearly doubling, right? Almost from 3.7 billion to 6.6 billion is what they're growing in 5 years' time. Okay. If we move to the next slide, Smita. Now, why medical writing? Why is it, we wrote it specifically a right career option. You can say it a right career option as well. This is a career option in writing. There is a lot of opportunities of employment if you pursue a career in medical writing. And many pharma students, many life science students are not even aware of this career until they embark into a pharma company or a consulting company or a clinical research organization like IQVIA and get an opportunity to actually work as medical writers or participate in activities that are coined or that comes under the umbrella of medical writing. Who are the companies who employ these writers? Either from fresh students, they train them, or they hire experienced medical writers. These are the pharmaceutical companies, the medtech companies, the medical device companies, biotechnology companies, medical communication agencies. There are specific medical communication agencies like Cactus, if you may have heard. Then you have Sineo. So there are different companies who are also into medical communications. Academic institutions, medical and healthcare book publishers like the journal companies like Elsevier Group, Taylor and Francis Group, right? So these are different, and there are many, many more. Then the clinical, it didn't mention about the clinical research organizations separately. We talked about the consulting companies. So these are the people who actually employ medical writers to help disseminate the research they're conducting or help their clients to disseminate the results for them, which they are conducting. For example, a company like a medical communication agency or a company like clinical research organization, when they hire medical writers, they help the clients in order to disseminate the results from the studies that they're conducting with help of their medical writers, either in form of a study report or in form of a publication, right? Or in form of a patient communication material, or in form of a a promotional material or different other activities. Okay. So you may have come across, if you search on different job portals like LinkedIn and other company portals, you will find out that there are different job titles that are available for medical writers. It may not come within the same title or same designations always. You will find the names coming used interchangeably at times, or maybe separately also in different organizations. They may be called as scientific writers, technical writers, regulatory writers, medical communication specialists, medical affairs, promotional writers, healthcare marketers, writing specialists, scientific content developer. Many different type of job titles are available, which essentially requires or essentially depend on the medical writing skills of the resources. Okay. So who can become a medical writer? So since the term says medical or clinical or scientific, you can very well understand that the first and the foremost criteria to develop as a medical writer is that you have to have an aptitude for both science / clinical research / medical research and writing. Now, depending on what you would get an opportunity to write about, you have to enhance your knowledge on that field specifically. You need to be able to understand the medical concepts and ideas. So ideally, any student from the pharma, life science, clinical research, medical background, nursing are very well positioned to grow as a medical writer. You would be able to interpret and present data to the target audience. Now, as a student or as a researcher, we present our own research, right? We present it in different conferences, we prepare abstracts, we prepare publications also, right? But that's our research. So we know what we are doing. We know how to interpret the results, what is our main outcome from this study or the research we have done, and then we actually publish it or present it. But in terms of medical writer, you may or may not be writing the research that you are conducting, right? So it could be a research from somebody else, right? Somebody else have done that study, or somebody else have analyzed certain things that you need to help disseminate. So you have to be able to read through the data, interpret the data, and then present in a succinct manner to the target audience. So your target audience can vary. Like I mentioned, there are different type of medical writing activities. For example, when you are writing a CSR or a protocol, you are writing to support regulatory submissions for that particular compound, for that particular study. So there, your main stakeholder, main audience is a regulator. When you are writing a reimbursement dossier, your main audience is the reimbursement authority, like NICE, you may have heard the name of, right? Like HTAIN in India, like CADIT in Canada. So they would be reading what you have written about a new drug that is about to come in the market and decide whether they will approve it or not. Okay? Suppose you're writing a promotional material. So that could be for the clinicians. If you're writing a patient support material that, if you take this drug, this is how your quality of life is going to improve. This is how your disease will be improved. You will be disease free, etc. So that's for a patient. So you have to understand your language, your tone of writing or presenting the data. You have to be factual in presenting the data. You cannot modify the data. You cannot recreate anything, but you have to change your modality of tonality of the paper to be able to reach and intrigue your target audience. Then, as a medical writer, like I mentioned, that you may not always be publishing or writing on your own research. You will be required to work collaboratively in cross-functional teams. So you have to work with different people, like the clinicians, like the site specialists, like the clinical research associates, like the regulatory affairs team, medical affairs team, epidemiologists, biostatisticians, data management team, editors. So many people you will be able to work with. And if you're working for your client, your pharma client or your medtech company client, then you also have to work with them. Okay. And actually, like any skills, medical writing skill also requires regular upskilling. As we always say that you have to sharpen your axe, right? To be relevant, you have to also explore what resources are available for medical writers. And now with the advent of ChatGPT and other, artificial intelligence-based tools, it's all the more important to be abreast on what are the changes these technologies are bringing and how it is enabling and empowering medical writers to do their job better, to do their job more efficiently. Okay, you have to have a good networking with other medical communicators, because you may not get exposure to everything that is happening under the umbrella of medical and scientific writing. So as you need to upskill yourselves, you have to see what others are doing, how others are doing as well. Then there are different professional certifications that are available, which actually helps a person to showcase their credibility, showcase their credential in the market. These are not mandatory, but are definitely beneficial if one has it. These certifications includes CMPP, which is from the International Society of Medical Publication Specialists and Editors. Then you have AMWA, or American Medical Writers Association certificate, or EMWA, which is for the European Medical Writers Association certificates that are available. That adds the credibility for a medical writing experience. Okay. Next slide, please, Nita. Thank you. So these are some of the resources that I have listed. Like I mentioned, that these things are not, this is a never-ending thing. So if you go and research today, you will probably find more books. You will probably find many training materials available. And in today's world, since networking is the key, if you go, you will find lots of freely available medical writing webinars that are there that would help you to actually enhance your skills, enhance your understanding, and stay up to date with the technological innovation that's going to help you. Then you have different style guides that would enable you to do your job better, to do it in the proper manner as is required by the industry or regulators, like the AMA Manual of Style, Chicago Manual of Style, or publication manuals. And then there are some online tools that are also helpful. So I have listed them all for your purpose, that you can actually find out. And then there are different resource centers which actually gives us the guidelines or framework under which we can do the medical writing. I need to excuse myself for a minute, please. Sorry, I'm back. So these are the different resources that are available. So different tools. So these are a few tools that are available. Like, we have tools for looking at a grammar concept. Nowadays, we all know that the chat GPT or the co-pilot that we have at Microsoft also helps us with these type of activities. So I did not touch upon Gen AI in medical writing because that is something, a vast field, and which would take a lot of different level of discussions on this. So that's why I just kept it to the traditional medical writing activities only. And like I mentioned, that there are certain guidelines and framework that are applied. So the Equator Network actually provides you with lots of guidance how to report and disseminate for different type of studies, like the clinical studies, the real world studies, the observational studies, the health economic studies, etc. Then you have American Medical Writers Association, European Medical Writers Association, and ISMBP guidelines that actually helps us staying updated about the requirements, mandatory requirements for different type of scientific and medical writing, and provides us with a framework and good writing practices. Okay. So next slide, Smita. We have anything? No, I don't think we have anything. So now I would be happy to answer some of the questions that you have already asked and shared with Dr. Priyanka. So I hope through my presentation, I was able to address some of the questions, but Dr. Priyanka, if you ask the questions again, I'll try to answer it.
Ma'am, first of all, first question of the students was that means how we can enter into this particular field.
Okay. Okay.
Is any special course is required to be done or something? What is it?
Okay. Okay. So, like I mentioned that I have told you, right, that who employs medical writers. So different companies, they employ medical writers. So when they employ the medical writers in different positions, like any other job, right? That you can start at an entry level, or you can also go in a mid level after gaining some experience in the field. But everybody has to start at some place. So many companies at different time, they actually hire freshers from the organizations, even including our company. We have hired people from different academic institutions and colleges who just completed their MPharm or PhDs and or MBBS or BDS and MPH. So after those qualifications, we have hired them as interns, so they can work as an intern. The best way to learn is to have on-job hands-on experience, right? If you do the work, you learn it better. Of course, the training materials, the resources will help you. And there is n number of training materials and resources available on different forums like LinkedIn and these AMWA, EMWA, and ISMPP, like I mentioned. There are some training courses available from certain universities abroad. There are some training programs available which is conducted by some consulting firm on medical writing. Those trainings would probably, those could be paid, those trainings, and those workshops probably enable you to understand what are the different types, what are the different processes, what are the different frameworks, and may have one or two small hands-on exercises. However, if you want to do a course, it is better to take up a university course. And also there are lots of training materials available in Learning Age, in LinkedIn, on scientific writing, scientific editing, statistical interpretation, understanding the basic epidemiology that would help you understand any clinical study, any observational study when you are working on them. So that's how you enter the market. When they are hiring freshers, you can apply and they would take there. There will be no judgment that you know writing or not. They would give you, and maybe they will give you a test sample to see how well you write, how well you are able to understand a problem and answer. So start doing that. You can also start doing that by writing your own blogs on a particular clinical area of your interest, and start publishing it in LinkedIn, and ask your network to provide you some feedback on that, right? Don't be daunted if you receive any critical feedback that, oh, what you have written, it's already known to the fraternity, this is nothing new, or I mean, you are probably not reading it right or understanding it right. It's all right. Try to have it vetted, try to have it validated. This will help you create your own confidence about writing something. You will be writing as a student of pharmacy. I think you will all get opportunities to disseminate your research project in form of your project reports, in form of your publications or posters in conferences. Try to make it as professional as possible. Look at, read a lot of scientific publications, and there are a lot of examples of published protocols, of published clinical study report. Read them. As you read them, you will know how it is written. You will probably also find out loopholes and understand what not to write and how not to write things in a wrong manner, right? So this is how you gain the experience. Nobody is born as a medical writer. They learn to do it, and it is always an experiential learning. So as you work on more projects, more of, which includes medical writing activities, you will increase your expertise.
Ma'am, my second question is, are there any departments or types of jobs in this particular field?
I have listed out, Dr. Priyanka, a few type of job titles, so that you will find coming up very often as job titles in the job postings. I would request you to go and type medical writers or scientific writers in LinkedIn. You will find a lot of profiles. Go read their profiles, find out which companies they are taking. There are different departments, of course. In any organization, there will be different departments. There will be finance, there will be BD, there will be sales, there will be epidemiology, there will be biostatisticians. Similarly, there will be medical writers. Medical writers can come in medical affairs group, it can come in regulatory affairs group, it can come in, it can be part of R&D group, it can be part of real world group, it can be part of consulting team also. But you just see what kind of skills they are looking for. If you find that any skills talks about communication specialist, content developer, scientific content developer, scientific writing, regulatory writing, medical writing, promotional writing, healthcare writing, that will allow you to understand that they are looking for writers. Okay, so if that, like I said, that if you go and type in and search in LinkedIn about scientific or regulatory or medical writers, you will find out different designations different people might have had in different organizations and companies. Okay.
Ma'am, are there any challenges in this particular field also? Means you are
Yeah.
writing the thing which has been research is going on in the particular field, or whatever the facts are there. Then also there are certain challenges in this particular field.
See, like with any job, any particular job role, there will be challenges. So there are challenges in medical writing also. In today's world, I think many people are concerned about the advent of Gen AI, how the job roles will remain, See, the expertise, the human interpretation will always be required, right? However, we need to be able to embrace the technologies and innovations that are coming our way and use them in our benefit to be able to do our job better. So maybe the way we are defining medical writing today, it will move or evolve into a different phase of medical writing in the next 2 years or 5 years from now, which will only be enabled through the technology innovations that are happening. However, the roles would still be relevant, and we will continue to work as medical writers, providing on our human scientific experience based interpretation. For example, If we recall people who were writing research articles and promotional materials back in the days of say 30 years before or 40 years before, when there were no internet as such, when doing a Google search using 256 bits kbps computer was very very challenging. Even at that period people used to write. Then we have seen the boom of internet. We have Google now. We cannot even go without Google. We don't always step into a library, like we used to. I remember we used to go to the National Library of Medicine at AIMS when we were doing our masters. So we don't do it anymore. We have everything handy on the net for us, but still we're writing in a different manner. We have these technology innovations enabling us to do our job better, faster, right? So that's how technology helps you. So that is what we need to learn, how to embrace the technology and make use of it to enable us and not disable us. A second thing I would like to say, like in any job, there is a challenge of you getting like you getting bored or fatigued with the same type of activities that you are doing. However, if you look at it, any job requires you to be consistent with something. And the best part in medical writing is that you get an opportunity to work with different clients in different therapy areas. So every day, when my publication writers like Smita and her team writing publications, someday they're writing on prostate cancer, someday they're writing on psoriasis, someday they're writing on some infectious disease, someday they're probably writing on healthcare innovation or some important changes that is happening in the regulatory landscape. So you get to learn a lot. So the most important challenge is that you cannot remain in the status quo or in your comfort zone. You always have to challenge your comfort zone and keep learning, keep adding to your understanding, and you have to be very quick grasping things, and you have to be on your foot all the time as a medical writer. The challenge is that there is a lot of competition in the market because you do not need a specific skill sets as such, a specific certification or a degree to be a medical writer. So there is a lot of competition. Like I said, to beat the competition, you have to know how you can empower yourself to remain relevant, updated, and differentiated. So more you know, more you can talk about different things in writing that will help you or that will enable you. Right?
Oh,
But you,
just to add on,
sure.
one of the as a writer, being a writer, I think one of the important skills to have is to have a thick skin. It's a most it's a very subjective field, right?
Yeah, that's
Because the same story can be conveyed in different ways, can be conveyed in different writing is very very subjective. So you need to embrace feedbacks, you need to be open to getting feedbacks. You will receive very very hard feedbacks from your clients because you're not the author. Like I said, you're not involved in the study from the beginning, and you need to put somebody else's thought in your words. So you sometimes need to think like how they think, which is very difficult to do. So I think it is to I mean, you need to kind of constantly listen to what they are saying, and also try to understand what they want. It's not what you want to write, it is what they want to
yeah,
write. So you need to have that open mind as a medical writer. As a medical writer, you're not writing your research, you're writing somebody else's research. So that's a very important factor, that it is, you should be open to feedbacks, you should be open to receive very harsh feedbacks, but take it in a very constructive and positive
positive.
way, and not be kind of depressed or feel threatened about the comments that you get. Like Mo was suggesting, write a blog. uh, it is nice to receive negative feedback. So when you get negative feedbacks is when you kind of work on yourself, because otherwise if everything is positive, you have no opportunity to grow. So once you have these kind of feedbacks coming in, is when you kind of introspect and say, okay, where am I going wrong? How better can I write? What is it that I'm lacking in my present writing? So So reading helps, like Mo was suggesting, reading helps you a lot to understand what you have to do it and what you don't do as well. As a reader, you have the choice of kind of seeing that, okay, if it's written in this way, I don't really understand. So I guess that's something that you need to constantly think as a writer, that you're not writing your work, you're writing somebody else's work. So you need to think like, you need to accept what others think about their particular study.
Thank you, Smita, for adding this. And I just want to add that in addition to being thick-skinned, like Smita mentioned, that you have to be very open to feedback, accept it with both hands, and accept it as a gift. At the same time, I think at times, being a medical writer, you might have to work against time, because the studies might take years to complete, but they might have a very high pressure to turn that study results into a publishable manuscript, or a study report to be submitted to the regulators in a very, very quick turnaround fashion. And those are very high priority, very high visibility deliverables, and might be very stringent on timelines. So you have to understand that you have to be very quick in terms of your understanding. So your mental agility is something you always need to keep working on, so that you can meet it. Of course, as medical writers, we can always go back to our clients and push back if the timelines are unrealistic. But sometimes the clients are also forced by the regulatory mandates, or their business mandates, to publish it by certain times. Otherwise, their competitors might gain advantage over it. So it's a very, very highly competitive world, from both our clients' perspective as well as us as professionals' perspective. So we all need to be updated on that. So like Smita mentioned, we are writing for somebody, we are writing for a client. So if the client finds that you are not the good writer, and they find no confidence in somebody else in another organization, you actually lose a big chunk of business. So that sometimes can be very challenging and very daunting as well as medical writers. But I believe if we keep ourselves enhancing ourselves every day, then we have less chance of this happening to us. Any other question, Dr. Priyanka?
No, ma'am. Let the last questions I'll communicate you through mail if there be any.
Of course, we'd be very happy, and I would be very happy if there are any questions specific to the two very important topics in medical
Yes.
writing, the regulatory and clinical, as well as scientific medical writing. If they want to know more, do let us know. We would be happy to support them with the experience that we have been gaining over years.
Ma'am, Dr. Shailesh Sharma is the principal of College of Pharmacy, Bela. He has also joined. I welcome you, sir. Sir, I request you, sir, to please give vote of thanks to ma'ams and sir. Sir, please unmute yourself. Yes, sir. Sir, I can't hear you.
Hello, ma'am. Now
Yes.
I'm audible.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, madam. Thank you, Dr. Priyanka Kriplani, ma'am. And it is a really very honor to me to propose a vote of thanks on this one-day national workshop on mastering medical writing, preparing for a successful career. And it is very difficult to express the things, the thoughts of ourselves in our absence. जहाँ हम नहीं हैं, वहां पर हमारे थॉट्स को एक्सप्रेस करना बहुत मुश्किल काम है, और उसमें भी टेक्निकल और साइंटिफिक चीज को प्रेजेंट करना एक अपने आप में बहुत चैलेंजिंग जॉब है, जिसके लिए एक सेट ऑफ स्किल्स की रिक्वायरमेंट है. और इन टुडेज वर्कशॉप एंड द नेशनल सेमिनार, our speakers completely fallowly understood the things which are the mistakes taken by the participants in the writing. They took every and each and everything in very minutely and explained very well in very simple languages to our participants to overcome these mistakes and gives the very good scientific writings. I'm thankful to our today's speakers, learned speakers, Ms. Mau Chatterjee Madam, Ms. Smitha Sardhana Madam, and Mr. Suprata Ghosh Sir, who explained very well to our participants. At that moment, I am also thankful to all the participants who joined this program. More than 550 participants are there in this program from 16 states of India. So I am thankful to all the participants. I am thankful to the principal, Dr. Kumar Gaurav sir, who really organized a well online workshop on the skill writings, medical writing. I am thankful to the management of both colleges, Guru Gobind Singh College of Pharmacy, Yamuna Nagar, and COP Bela for giving a permission and a platform to improve our skill sets and of our participants also. I am thankful to the team, Dr. Priyanka Kriplani ma'am, Dr. Geeta madam, Dr. Ajmer sir, Dr. Ajay Singh Kushwaha sir, and Dr. Rahul Kumar Sharma sir, who really did a nice job to circulate the flyers and promote the workshop on the online platforms. Last but not least, I'm thankful to the whole participants who gave us our precious time to learning these skill sets. And in the last, thanks all our learned speakers who give their precious time for our participants. So thank you very much to all.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you all of you.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.